podcast week, and I have got Wendy on the show, and I love Firefish. I love everything they do. I'm a big fan of Wendy and her team, but the main reason is that I think that the Firefish podcast has been especially good from a community perspective. And I'm going to be honest with you, off air, Wendy and I were talking about her podcast, and I think she's going to share some interesting revelations with those of you who are thinking about podcasts and maybe doing it yourself. So Wendy, without any further ado, please introduce yourself, even though you're no stranger to us on the Daily Workout.
No, and thanks for having me again. Always love being part of the Daily Workout and everything you're doing here. So yeah, no, I'm Wendy McDougall. I'm the Chief Fish of Firefish Software, and we are a recruitment CRM that focuses on putting the data in the heart of the business and providing data-driven and data intelligence, and just helping you make the right decisions for your business to go forward.
It's an amazing product, guys. Go check it out. Wendy, when it comes to podcasting, let's start at the beginning, because that's always a great place. I did some research. I see you've done 5 seasons of podcasts now. You haven't done the traditional podcasting route because you've had it more like a video interaction. So it's not just an audio podcast, which, to be honest with you, I much prefer that. But tell us about the beginning. When did you start it, and what was the thinking behind it?
Yeah, so we actually did this in 2015. I thank you, Angela, for just checking out my date. It was October 2015 was when we started that, so a long time ago. And it was really very... some people were starting to do podcasts in the usual channel in terms of audio pre-recorded and out onto Spotify and YouTube. Well, not YouTube, and that wasn't really sort of back then, but you had the audio channels, etc. So we looked at all the different channels, and before that, like, we used Crowdcast, as you're all on today, but before that was something called Blur or something like that, Blog or something.
Oh, wow, I don't even remember that.
Oh my goodness!
2015 was early. I mean, you guys were trailblazing. I mean, that's amazing.
It was really, I mean, at that point, it was really good because we were trialing different things. Firefish has always got an attitude of, do something. If it works, do more of it, and if it doesn't work, then stop. Yes. I know Louise and I actually were. I see that she's in the audience. Yes. We were, and Cami also now at Pager. But the 3 of us were like experimenting with so many different technologies, and she'll remember as well. That's when that first Blab. Thank you.
Yes, she just went under. Blab.
It went under, and that's really where we all found Crowdcast together as well, which is what we've now been on. So yeah.
Oh, excellent. That's fantastic. And what was the thinking? Why did Firefish want to actually get cracking with a podcast? I mean, there weren't a lot around in those days. I don't think I knew what a podcast was in 2015. But what was your thinking? How was it going to build Firefish?
So we were looking for, at that point, content was our main inbound channel. So we were looking at lots of different content and way of being able to get that content distributed to different networks. Yep. Now, podcasts and crowdcasts, or whatever you want to sort of call them, are very top of the funnel stuff. All right, it is, and anybody thinking about it, it's a lot of work. It's hugely fun, but you won't get an instant return from it either. So it's very much like, it's very hard. It's got better in terms of the platforms, but it's very hard to look at KPIs and return on investments from a podcast because it's so top level. It's more brand enhancing, and I think that's really what we wanted to do, was connect and get to know our audience, because our audience have different ways of learning and different ways of engaging. So we had a great blog, and we still do, but that's written. Some people some people don't want to read, quite frankly, and other people do prefer to either engage visually, we're doing here, or listen on their way to the work through podcasts. And we wanted to cover all mediums of how we communicate.
I think that's a great idea as well. I mean, one of the things that I actually miss the most, not going into an office, is I don't have time to listen to blogs, podcasts anymore. I'll read a blog, but I think I'm actually a better listener. So I've recently discovered Audible, and I'm downloading audiobooks. And then now that I live in a really nice surroundings, I'll go for a walk to the beach and I'll listen to an audiobook for an hour a day if I can. Yeah. So you're right. It's about catering to the different mediums that people absorb knowledge and content in. So
well, it's even more than that, Vanessa, as well, though. I think it's a real accessibility thing we've got to do. You know, I come at it from, I just can't really read because I'm very badly dyslexic. So I was very keen at a very different way. And I know that a lot of recruitment leaders out there are also dyslexic. We're all very visual, and we absorb information in different ways. And I didn't think that the help or the interaction was getting catered for all types of learning. So that's where we want to build the staff there.
Yeah, and I think I fit into that category myself. That's why either listening or watching. So if I can watch something live, then that's the best way for me to learn. Now, at the moment, when I reached out to you to say, Wendy, you know, I'm always keen to get you onto the show, you said to me, but Van, we have paused the podcast at the moment. So let's talk about that. I mean, why did you decide to pause a really successful? I mean, I remember some of your shows last year, especially when it was new in the AI space. I mean, you were getting over 1,000 views. I mean, why stop something that seemed to be an amazing success to the rest of us?
Yeah, it's a great. Yeah, it's put it on pause, and it's a pause to reassess where we fit in the marketplace. I think, you know, like everything, right now podcasts are coming in waves, and there's a lot of people launching new podcasts just now. So, and good on them. That's great. You know, I'm all for that. We've been doing it since 2015. It's been it's hard to make sure that you get the level of guests, which is really key. The guest is the magnet. We've figured it all out. We've done so much analysis in terms of what are the pulling powers in terms of, you know, getting that audience. And, you know, we don't want to just be rehashing the same people. And that sounds awful because every guest has been awesome, before I offend anybody out there. But when we're looking at it and it's gone maybe beyond me, where it used to be my network who I bumped into, and it's now got to go beyond into, we've got, you know, 2 people behind me doing the production and the editing of that. Yeah. And the production, then it's their role to really look at the guests, get the best guests on, look at the topics. And that's quite a hard gig if you're not in the network all the time. And picking up guests. So I was just feeling that we needed to reposition what and where we fitted in the marketplace in order to now go forward for the next 5-10 years as to you know, because our company is going through quite a lot of repositioning just now. We're growing up quite a bit as well. And that means that all forms of content, you know, our guys in marketing have got a great new content strategy, that they're changing that with more interactive content rather than static content. It's more data-based as well, or data-driven. So we just need to then go and reposition it. And it's exactly the same. If you're out there and thinking about starting up a new podcast, I would recommend you do what we're doing right now. You know, go and have a look at all the topics. Go and listen to some of their podcasts. Find out what persona they're targeting. Is it recruiters? Is it recruitment marketers? Is it hiring managers? Is it that you know? What topics do they cover? And then, you know, where are you going to be different?
Yep. Exactly, 100%, and I think that's amazing, and I'm actually really excited. I mean, as you were saying, all of these, you know, you're repositioning, you're making changes. We have to. I mean, the world has changed. You know, AI is here to really enhance us, to make us better at what we do, but it's also going to change a lot of things. So I think that's amazing. We've just got someone on LinkedIn over here saying that they're working on a podcast, not launched yet. So one of the real nuggets that I took away from what you just said there, Wendy, was the strength of your guests and how your guests have the pulling power. What was another, you know, big takeaway from running a successful podcast for so many years? What else would you give as advice for someone who wants to start their podcast?
So put it into a process as well. So, you know, every time we went on live, we would have met the guests beforehand. We would have done a discovery call. It would be a half-hour planning call. We would talk to them about you know, what was relevant, what do they think that they could add value. I would structure that out with a title in terms of what roughly we were going to talk about, and I would give 5 bullet point sort of hooks, as I used to call them, so that you know, we would come in just like this, in that we're talking freely, but I would have 5 main key structures to take that through that conversation and lead to conclusion, making sure that we delivered it. So, you know, this is a planned structure. It's a process, or for, you know, anybody out there looking to try and start a podcast, if you don't work this into your everyday sort of or every week structure and diary system, you know, I'll give you about 5 podcasts and you'll give up like many have.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think it's also good to be consistent. I mean, the podcasts for me that stand out are the ones that will ask maybe the same 3 questions. You know, so for example, this one on the daily workout, and I, now listening to you speak, I probably haven't communicated it well enough, would be like, you know, why did you start the podcast? What are the future plans? And where is it hosted? Where can people listen? Which is all very clear in my head, but again, haven't properly communicated that as well and as effectively as I could have. So yeah, very interesting points. Wendy, right.
The only thing I would say, we're just sort of thinking about what I've learned as well. That's great when you're doing those, like for when you do that as a weekly theme, to have 3 sort of points for this week. But I would say again, don't have maybe 1 question you ask all the guests at the end, like what are your key takeaways was mine. You know, give me 3 things that somebody can implement right now. That was my one that I did. But if you have the same questions and you've got different guests, then it gets boring very quickly and you lose engagement.
But also, another thing is that you also want to try and keep guests on, you know, focused and on track, you know, which I think with some guests, I mean, some days you may have been like herding kittens because, you know, the conversation can go in so many different directions. Having that framework that you put in place before every episode would help keep you on track, which is also quite a difficult role for the podcast host to do. You know, that podcast host needs to be quite a strong personality and definitely not a pushover.
And they need to be listening more than speaking, but coordinating the questions to get the value out of the guest, I also found.
Yeah, 100%. So that's actually a really tough role too. So Wendy, I don't want to put pressure on you, but I mean, I know you're rebranding and you're thinking of things differently. Do you think it'll be this year that you launch something else? Maybe it won't be a podcast. Maybe it'll be something new.
Yeah, we'll definitely be back. I don't think that we'll be back before May, in my head, just with everything we've got going on just now. And we want to, you know, we're even having, I think we've gone through different names, different branding for it just now as well. But actually the Firefish Crowdcast or the Firefish Podcaster is still actually the brand that we've ended up building up since 2015. So it's probably what we're going to stick with. But actually having the theme of where we're going to take that and how we're going to add value to that is still, we have what we want to be having on the show, but we want to align with the type of guests and really nail down that persona, which is really important to me because it's going to be very easy for my production crew to understand and be able to identify potential guests and a really good stream of them.
Yes, absolutely. And the frequency, are you still looking at doing that once a month or?
Yeah, so we've done lots of different things with frequencies over the year. So back in COVID, you know, I was on doing, I went live every day for CEO Diaries at the start of COVID, trying to help everybody do a 6-week course to plan through the really scary time of that. I then went on and we did it every fortnight. And definitely in COVID time, when you had an audience wanting to learn, then that I had great engagement every fortnight. Then when everybody got busier, you know, once a month I think is a great time to be coming on board. And gosh, it comes around really, really quickly. You'll also find time of days if you're going on live, when best to go live, and which days to avoid, etc. And we've done all the statistics to tell us when not to do it and when to do it. So thanks, Louise.
That's awesome.
Diaries. I was proud of that as well.
I actually was just thinking back to the time of COVID and we were all just so lost and, you know, it sounds terrible. I don't want to go back to time because we had so many, you know, deaths and those things due to COVID, but it was a great time for learning and really getting stuck into podcasts. So,
the whole world was put onto pause. Yeah, the whole world was put onto pause and we could actually reset and actually look at what's important and probably do more of what was important and less of what didn't actually count. Which is a really important thing as well.
Absolutely. It definitely was what prompted our move down here because we realized that actually, you know, what have we been taking for granted? So that was the CEO Diary. So if you want to go and find that. And last question, Wendy, if people want to go and listen to your Firefish podcast, which I really, really recommend, where can they find you? What's the easiest place?
Yeah, so I mean, effectively, we have it on our website, so we have that in our content section, but we also distribute it all onto all the various channels. For anybody knowing out there, again, you can go into one distribution and it'll take it onto Spotify.
Yes.
Upload it to YouTube because it's visual as well. Take Apple. Snippets for all, etc. Apple, all of the main channels. You just upload it and it distributes it to all. I'd say that's a good way of distributing it, but you probably still need to do some work around on those channels to make sure it's optimized for those channels as well.
Excellent. Fantastic. Wendy, thank you so much for being my guest. I really appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Pleasure, and good luck to everybody out there. Just be aware, it's hardcore. You've got to keep doing it, and it's consistency that counts. You won't get anything from your first season.
100%, absolutely. So thank you very much, and I look forward to having you back as a guest soon, I'm sure.
Always. Thanks, Vanessa. Thanks, everyone.
Excellent. Cheers.